My name is Evgenia. I'm an artist, I'm a poet, and I work with the project called the Tonal Forest. I'm based in Portugal. I feel myself, I call myself a vision holder for Tonal Forest, but I'm also working already with some of you, many more people, to co-create these eternal forest sanctuaries around the world, with the first ones already emerging in Portugal, and some of you here hopefully are also part of this process from Portugal. So welcome to Eternal Forest Conversations, which are conversations I've been holding for more than 1 year, and they are meant to keep creating this community, sharing the ideas, the thoughts, and the basic themes around Eternal Forest, and helping to create new partnerships, collaborations, and exchange the best practices that we do, and that can help us to connect with wider than human nature. And today our wonderful speaker is Rachel Corby. She's a plant whisperer, she's rewilding coach, she's author of books, and one book I'm reading at the moment, which I'm enjoying greatly. She's a practitioner who brings together this more than human world to our lives in a very active way with huge experience. And she's always deepening her experience through communication with plants, through deep listening to the plants. And I feel it's something that is super precious for any practitioner of Eternal Forest. And she's going to share it with us today. And later I'm going to share her website. Actually, I would like to invite Rachel to just copy paste her website in the chat, or I can do it later. So just for those of you who have never heard about the Tonal Forest or wondering what is this project, I'm just quickly going to introduce it. It's a multidisciplinary project. It's art project that basically transforms our relationship with forests, sacred time and space, and creates 1,000 eternal forest sanctuaries to be protected for 1,000 years by local communities. I'm doing it through art and through ecology, and with a focus on biodiversity and the focus on the forest as a contemplative space as opposed to solely productive space for our human consumption. The first eternal forest sanctuaries are being created at the moment in Portugal as a way to kind of emerge pilots, to emerge a blueprint, and then be able to share this blueprint with the rest of the world. However, we're having more and more intentional forest sanctuaries emerging around the world who are already connecting and kind of joining this process. So it's very open. And I'm going to share with you after this brief introduction channels that you can already connect with this project. I've been running these conversations on the invitation from two artists, Aykroyd and Harvey. We did first one with them, and they said, you should be doing this. So I'm doing that, and it became a regular practice, and I'm really excited today to deepen it further. And we've had various artists, curators, organizations, professionals from different areas of reforestation and ecology, community members, and so on, to co-create this conversation, because I think it's important to create forests, but it's also important to deepen our conversation and this narrative. And as a part of this program of events, I would like just to make a quick announcement while we are all here today. On the 8th of September, we will have another conversation with Foresta Collective, and they will share their practice of attunement to personal ecologies through connecting with embodied sensuous knowledge, imagination, and critical discernment. And registration is already open, and I'm going to put all the links in the chat. You will receive everything. So with this, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to let Rachel lead. So you're on the screen now, and Rachel, over to you. Really excited to have you with us, and really, really grateful that somehow this research that I've been doing and going to all the different symposia and conferences led me to get to know you, because I heard you first at one of the beautiful events, and I thought, wow, I would really love to bring you on board. So here we are.
Oh, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and yeah, welcome everyone. And I loved reading all your connection stories and where you're all from. It's amazing to have people from all around the world here. So yeah, so that's really wonderful. So I'm going to start with a little grounding exercise, just so that we all kind of arrive together in the room. I don't know, hopefully you were more organized than me, but I was a bit hectic the last 10 minutes before I came on. So just to get us into our bodies and into a space where we'll be a bit more receptive. So I'll just invite you to close your eyes for a minute. Oh, someone's just joined the waiting room. Yeah, I'll just wait for them to join us, because otherwise I'll start and we'll be in the middle of it. Okay, so yeah, so I invite you to close your eyes and just sit back and relax in your chair. Take a deep breath. And now I invite you to direct your attention to your toes and wiggle your toes. And each part of the body where I'm going to direct your attention, I just invite you to say something along the lines of what I will say out loud. So to my toes, I say, thank you, I love you. Thank you for being part of my body, being part of Gaia. And then up to your knees, direct your attention to your knees, maybe give them a rub or give them a little bend and stretch. Thank you, knees. I love you, knees. Thank you for being part of my body, for being part of Gaia. Now my hips, direct your attention to your hips. Give them a little wiggle if you can. Thank you, hips. I love you, hips. Thank you for being part of my body and part of Gaia. Now up to your heart. Maybe place your hand on your heart. Thank you, heart. I love you, heart. And thank you for being part of my body and part of Gaia. Then up to my face, to your face. Thank you to my face. Thank you for my smile and my eyes, my senses. I love you. Thank you for being part of me. Thank you for being part of Gaia. And then to my brain. Thank you, brain. I love you, brain. Thank you for being part of my body and part of Gaia. Now just take another deep breath and just think of that our body is Gaia's body. There is no separation. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, so I hope that's got us all in a nice, relaxed and open-hearted state. As promised on the chat about this talk, I'm going to actually offer you a meditation that you can do with any plant at any time, or you can do what I'm recommending we do today and just invite any plant to come in. And it's just a way that you can make a deep connection with a plant without even being in the presence of the plant, actually just inviting the spirit of a plant to come and join you and tell you about itself, really. So I invite you to pay attention to who comes and pay attention to what they say to you. Why did this plant choose to come and not another plant? So that's what you might want to focus on at the end. You might want to take a moment at the end to write it down. So yeah, let's go ahead. I hope everyone's ready and in the good space for that already. So once again, just settle back in your chair and close your eyes. Let's take some deep breaths in. And as you release your breath, let go of any tension in your body. And just repeat, do a couple more of those lovely deep breaths, releasing tension on the out exhale. Now, feel the chair beneath you like a giant pair of hands, keeping you safe, keeping you warm. Drop down into your heart. Don't think, don't worry. There's no right, there's no wrong. Just sit in your heart and just feel love. And as you do so, invite a plant to come and meet with you in your heart space. It doesn't matter which plant. And if no plant comes, then just imagine one. Just picture a plant before you. And take a moment to greet that plant. It doesn't even matter if you don't know their name. Just say hello. And now invite the plant to show you themselves, to show you everything about themselves, from the seed to the leaf, the flower, the stems. Just go on a journey and let the plant itself guide you. Maybe you might like to invite the plant to show you how it moves through the seasons, how it changes from deep winter through spring and summer and fall and back to deep winter. Once you've done the cycle and the plant has shown you many things, is there anything you'd like to say to the plant? Say it now. Is there anything the plant would like to say to you? Now, is there anything you want to say in response to that, or perhaps you have a question to ask the plant? Are there any final things the plant would like to say to you for now? When the plant has finished, take some time to express your gratitude, to thank the plant for joining you, for sharing their wisdom with you. And when you are ready, say your farewells for now. And allow the image and the feeling of the plant to gradually fade. And as it does so, just bring your awareness back to your breath. Come back into your body. Come back into the room. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And take a few minutes just to land. Maybe you might want to write something down. Maybe who appeared, what they had to say. Just a couple of bullet points so that you can remember later. Good that I can see you writing, because that means you met a plant. So that's all good news. So I'm gonna carry on. So I hope you've had enough time. But if you just put a few bullet points in, you'll remember later, perhaps to fill in the gaps. So I want to briefly tell you a little bit about my personal journey with this, with making the connection with plants and I don't know, falling into a place where plant consciousness is filling every moment of my day, and I'm constantly with them in flesh and in spirit. I think, I don't know when it began, you know, it's like when did the story begin? I don't really know, but I always used to, as a small child, I always used to kind of hide a lot in the garden. Couldn't really bear being part of my family, which is an awful thing to say because they're good people, but I used to hide on the compost heap and play with the worms and the ants and the little seeds of the leylandii tree that was right next to the compost. And I never made the intention of becoming a plant person. I never thought, oh, I'm going to study plants, that's going to be my thing. But I did study geography at university, and for my dissertation I was looking at the microvegetation on a slope, and I was wild camping for a month in Scotland, and basically I was just surrounded by plants all day every day for a month, and it was really amazing, and I really fell into the dream of the plants. And a couple of plants, very specifically 2 different mosses, I really fell in love with them, and I didn't really think any more of it. When I finished that project, I kind of went back to partying. I was a student, you know, partying and playing and a little bit of studying in between. But they'd opened a door, they'd opened something in me, which then I just couldn't get away from. I just kept getting drawn again and again to the world of plants, and until I kind of, I suppose I stumbled across actually a couple of books. And so what we're talking here about around early 2000s, and there wasn't many books written about plant consciousness or connecting with plants back then, but there was a couple, and I found them and I read them, and I was like, that's it, that's where I want to go, that's where I want to get to. So I then went and studied with the two people that had written those books, which was Elliot Cohen and Stephen Harabuna. They'd written amazing books, and I just wanted to learn from the humans, because that was kind of, that's what our culture says, isn't it? The humans know it, so go to the humans to learn about plants. Okay, so I did it, and I learned a lot from them, but what I really learned most of all was to trust myself and to just sit and listen to the plants and learn from them directly. So that was kind of a valuable journey in confidence and in just listening to the plants. So yeah, what do I want to share with you today? Really, there are so many ways. There's so many ways that people can make their connection with plants, plant spirits, plant consciousness, and it's the same whether it's with, or more or less the same, whether it's with plants or stones or water. This methodology works for me for whomever I'm communicating with, so it is transferable. And by plants, I also mean trees. A lot of people say, well, I love trees. I love trees. Trees are plants. So that's okay. It works the same for those too. They just have big woody stems. So the one thing that's important to know is that there's no need for like expensive training. There's no grandiosity here. We all came to planet Earth with the ability to communicate with other species. It's what we've always done. Is my volume low? I've just seen a message. Maybe I'm not speaking very loudly. I don't know if that helps. I'll shout a bit. Good. Okay, good, thank you. Yeah, so we can all do it. We all came here doing it. We came as newborns. We're wild animals, and it's culture and society that trains us out of this way of being and of understanding the world around us and having community with the world around us, with the living world, other than humans. So we can do it. So all you really need, all the tools in your toolbox that you're going to need are trust and perseverance, because it may come straight away, and some of you may already be doing it, but for others, even if messages come in, or even if communications are flowing, you might be in the position where you're talking yourself out of it. I'm so silly, I'm making this up, but this can't be true. So it's about getting over that that barrier that we sometimes put in the way, and just believing that it is true. And the first, I will talk about what I call the essential groundwork, and I would say the first part of that is to believe, to have the belief, to know, or just to believe, because the knowing will come if you allow yourself the belief that plants are conscious and that they can communicate with us. But I mean, we all came from the same stuff. We all came from Earth. We're all built of the same things. So how can it be possible that we can be conscious and we can communicate, and the other beings that we share this life with are not? So for me, it follows that, of course, they're conscious. They're just perhaps speaking in a different language, or a language we can't hear because we've shut ourselves off to it. So that's the first part, have belief. And also to basically honor them as sacred. So honor the plants as sacred. But if you believe that they're conscious and that they're able to communicate, then of course their lives are sacred, just the same as your brother or your pet cat or dog, or if you have that belief in place, then the fact that they are sacred and to honor them as such will be a natural thing that will follow on. And then how do you then, so that is kind of like, I suppose, the baseline of any work that you do, and then to kind of then open up for communication, I would say make sure you've got an open heart, and just be open to what comes, and don't judge what comes, just be open to whatever you receive. And who do you communicate? Which plant do I choose? Oh my gosh, there's so many. Notice, pay attention to who you are noticing. So there are so many plants, but do you notice one more than any other? And if you do, then perhaps that plant is calling out to you. Maybe that plant has got a message for you. So notice, pay attention. And then when you have found one that you notice more than any other, then give them something, give them your attention, give them your love, give them your time. Just as you would with a human being that you've noticed, you notice someone, they stand out from the crowd, you want to get to know them. You can't do that unless you do those things, unless you give them time and love and approach them with an open heart. And then you might want to give a gift, especially if you're asking something. You know, if I went to my neighbour to borrow a cup of sugar, then the next day when I'd been to the shop, I'd give them something in return as a little gift, as a little thank you for what they've given me. Reciprocity. It's like they give, you receive, you give, and they receive. So what could you think of to give a plant? Well, there are many things, and there are traditional things that different cultures use, like tobacco or cornmeal. But for me, that's not my culture. So I feel, or it's not what I was raised with. So I feel like I know that my hair will compost down, you know, and it's falling out a little bit. Maybe that's summer, but just run my fingers through my hair and I've got a couple of strands of hair there. So I would lay that around the plant as an offering, as a thank you. But my greatest gift I can give actually is time, because that's my, the commodity that is most valuable to me, really, time. So give your time and acknowledge that that's what you're giving. I'm giving you my undivided attention for the next half hour. And and then you might want to ask a question. I'd love to know more about you. Please tell me about yourself. And how do you listen for the response once you've asked the question, once you've arrived, once you've noticed, once you've given some time? You're sat there thinking, oh, well, I'm waiting for something to happen here. So why don't we use our bodies, which is part of Gaia, it's part of the earth, just like the plants have bodies, which is part of Gaia, part of the earth. So use your senses to explore the plant, but communicate. So if you're going to touch the leaf, maybe ask the plant if that's okay first. And if you wish to tear a leaf off to taste it, definitely ask the plant if you can do that first. I mean, smell, touch, look, use your fingers to really notice the different textures and look up close and look at the shapes the plant makes. Really dive in there with your senses. Of course, with the tasting one, just be really careful that you know that it's non-toxic before you taste it. So if you are unsure, preferably don't taste it. But otherwise, use your senses and really get in there and get up close and get physical and get to know the plant on a physical level, because your physical senses are the gateway to your body. They're like an antenna. Your body's like an antenna, and it can tell you so much. We're not very good at listening to what the body says, but this is all part of the training of listening to the plants. If you can listen to your own body, then you can listen more easily to the plants. And then we've got our heart sense, our felt sense, the feelings that come from the heart. Have I gone yellow? I have gone a bit yellow. I think it's because it's getting dark and I've got the light from my ball. I turned it on because otherwise I'd be in grey soon. So yeah, I'm not ill. So then the heart, and your heart, feelings don't lie, feelings never lie, whereas your head can, and your head can make things confusing. So feel, how do you feel when you're sat with that plant? How does being with that plant make you feel? And also, what's your first sort of, sometimes you see a plant and you're straight away like, wow, look at you, what is that feeling? Kind of try and nail it down, look into it, and what does that feeling mean? So that's the ways, the most simple ways of listening really are with your physical senses, and then with your heart. What is your heart telling you? What is the feelings you're getting from being in the presence of that plant? And just your first reaction, even with your heart, pay attention to those, because they will tell you a lot about the plant. And then if you're actually sat with a plant, if you've gone outside to make a connection with a plant, it's really important, just as we did at the end of that meditation actually, is to express your gratitude, to thank the plant, to thank it, even if you feel nothing happened, even if you sat there for half an hour in silence and you just got an ant crawling up your leg and the rain started falling and you were just like, well, this is boring. Thank the plant anyway, because maybe there's something in that, the fact that you felt bored. And notice how I say the word felt, there's a feeling there, something came in, it was boredom. Okay, that wasn't what you were hoping for or expecting, so it's good to have no expectations. But you know, even if you're just bored, that is a feeling, so that is something to unpack later on. Yeah, so I would say that's a kind of a potted version of how to embark on a two-way conversation with a plant. I mean, to have the second way, as in you're responding back, you have to be able to sort of like really get in there and understand what's coming to you. So practice using your senses, practice using your felt sense, your heart, and it will become more apparent what the plant is telling you. So I have a couple of exercises that you can use at home that will, like, basically on top of this or in training for this, that will hopefully help you kind of refine your senses and your feeling sense. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the feeling sense, and this is just, it's a comparison exercise. And the reason why I'm suggesting you compare things is because that helps kind of, well, let me explain it and then you'll understand why. So for example, go to a first tree, go to a tree, say you might go to a birch tree, and simply notice how you feel. Notice how you feel while you're with that tree. Notice how that plant makes you, that tree makes you feel. Thank it. And then move on straight away. Don't take a break. Don't go for a cup of tea. Don't throw the ball for the dog. Just go straight away to a second tree. And again, this time maybe it might be a spruce. So go to your second tree, a different kind of tree, and notice again how you feel. And you don't need a big commentary coming on from your mind. You're just looking at how you're feeling in your heart, what you're receiving in your heart. So that's the second tree, because at the first tree you might not have felt much happened, but by the time you get to the second tree you think, oh, I do feel a little bit different to the first. And then go to your third tree. So go to 1, 2, 3 in a row. So you get to your third tree, and again, just drop into your heart. Notice how you feel. Notice how you feel in the presence of this tree. And then thank the tree. And then you've got a comparison of 3. And I can assure you that you'll definitely feel different with each tree. And it might be a subtle difference, but the more you do this, the more tuned in you'll get to the subtleties of feeling and how different trees make you feel. So it's a really simple exercise. You can do it. Somebody actually mentioned in the chat when we started about they don't connect in that well with their pot plants. So I can't remember who that was, but whoever it was, try that every morning as you get up. Greet the plants in your house, your little pots of plants in your house. Greet them every morning, and then just notice how you feel when you're stood with each one. Just add 5 minutes to your morning routine, but it's a really nice way to start bringing them into your life and just greeting them and noticing how they make you feel. So you don't even have to go out if it's pouring with rain. You can do this exercise indoors. It's nice to do it with trees because trees are big and their feeling is generally stronger than a very small plant, but you can do it with anyone from the plant world. And then I have a different exercise to kind of fine tune your physical senses, specifically actually smell and taste, but because that is what's actually going into your body in a physical way, they can inform your physical body about the plant. So for this, you need to have a plant that you know is non-toxic, and brew a cup of tea from this plant. So you need a teapot with a lid, or you can use a French press or a cafetiere so that you can keep the vapors inside until you pour the cup. Then you pour your cup of tea. So I'll demonstrate with my glass of water, and just spend 10 minutes at least 10 minutes just smelling. You might want to have to go like that to smell it. You might be really bad at smelling. You might not have a very good sense of smell, but the more you smell it, the more you'll start to notice. And what I'm recommending that you do is you're not just trying to go, oh yeah, it smells like ginger. You're noticing where it's going in your body. So is it making you feel energized? Is it making you feel relaxed? Is it making you feel excited? Can you feel it going to your nose or your forehead or your belly or your toes? Are you tingling? So notice anything that comes physically, but also you might start, depends on how you personally operate. I've done this exercise with so many groups of people, and everybody receives it in a slightly different way. Some people get colors, they might receive a color, or they might receive a little vision, some maiden wafting through a flower meadow or something like that. So just write things down as you do it. Smell and notice what occurs and what's happening for you inside your body and inside your vision, any visions or any feelings. And then when you've done that for a good 10 minutes, when you really can't smell anymore, you're going to pass out because you've been breathing in so deeply for so long. I like what Daniela's just written. That's great. And then taste it. So then after you've smelt it for a while, then taste it. And this time, really invite the plant to come into your body. Invite the plant to teach you from the inside, to tell you about itself from the inside. We are what we eat after all, yeah? So we're not anything else. We're what we put inside our body. So if you're taking that cup of tea in, then it is actually becoming you. But if you're conscious of that and you're inviting it and you start to be conscious of what happens when you do that, then you're sort of opening up a whole new realm of experience with that plant. So again, just notice where it goes inside your body, how it makes you feel on an energetic level, any visions or feelings or thoughts that come. Just write them all down. And when you've finished with taste, just sit with it for 10 more minutes. Sit with the experience for 10 more minutes and just notice where it goes through your body. So, like if you take a painkilling pill, you don't feel it instantly, but then you start to feel it after 10, 15, 20 minutes, it starts to do its job. So if you think about when you've taken anything into your body, it takes a while for it to start to infuse properly. So just then sit with it for a little while and notice where else it goes. So there are 2 exercises there that basically you can do anytime. You don't need to be in an amazing, beautiful, incredible forest full of plants. You can do it with a herbal tea bag from the supermarket if you like, but preferably with a fresh plant that you've just been out and sat with and spoken to, because then you can deepen that actual relationship. Because next time you go outside and you see that plant, you'll be like, oh, it's you, oh wow, thank you so much. So those are my two little exercises that I thought you might like to try. And so I think that's what I'm going to say for now, and I want to pass back to Evgenia for you had some questions you wanted to ask.
Thank you, Rachel, for sharing this. I just wanted to say that for those of you who would like to really deepen those 2 authors that Rachel already mentioned, I also read those books and I really recommend them. They are fantastic. They're just magical, and they really open up a whole new world. But also the book that I'm reading, I still haven't finished. It's on my Instagram and I think on Facebook. It's called Rewilding and the Art of Plant Whispering. And this is you can see the image on the book. I have it on my Kindle. It's in electronic version. But also there's a physical book and you can get it online. It's really full of fantastic practices and very simple way, and also like a phase way, so you can do it in a more accessible, really basic way, and then you go deeper, and then it's a whole story, and you can take it as slow as you like. I think it's really like for me it's like a manual of connection. And I would like to ask Rachel a few questions, and then of course we will have also some space for Q&A at the end. And I would like to start with this one, with a quote from your own book. Yes, we will share all the books with you. Yes, maybe a bit later. So because I can't type and and look and talk at the same time. So this quote really resonated with me. Gaia wants you to be well, as in your wellness comes greater wellness to the whole. So I would like you to just invite you to meditate on this sentence and really, really listen to it again and let it sink. Gaia wants you to be well, as in your wellness comes greater wellness to the whole. And for me personally, what I'm hearing and kind of remembering how our world is sometimes, or some version of the world we are living in, sometimes it's hard to believe, no, because we are being told different kind of stories which are different from what is communicated through this writing. So I would like to ask Rachel a question: is, do plants actually want us to be healthy? And what would it mean if it was the case, if we were constantly tuning ourselves for health and for natural health? How would our perception of ourselves and the world would be then?
Yes, plants, I am sure, want us to be well. They want us to be not just healthy in body, but well as a whole being. They want us to remember ourselves as part of Earth. And so for that, the more, so I mean, I have this thing with eating wild food, and I know a couple of you are kind of foragers from the bits you put at the beginning in the chat. But when you eat wild, unadulterated food, you're eating wildness. You're becoming, again, part of this wild, natural whole being, because Gaia is the system as the whole. And we are part of that system, whether we believe it or not. So, you know, by eating the wildness, we're eating the resilience. Like, you're all from all over the world, so I don't know if you all know what dandelions are, but here in the UK, you've got like the paving slabs or the street side pavements, and you have little crack and there'll be a dandelion coming up through it, and it gets trodden on and people throw weed killer on it and they try and dig it out, and it comes back and it comes back. It's never watered, it's never given fertilizer, and yet it's got that strength. And if you think, those of you, I apologize if anyone doesn't know what a dandelion is, but this is going to be my example. If you think of a dandelion, it's so deeply rooted. It's rooted in the earth, and it's so outrageously generous, because when you get the seed heads, all those little white little ones you go like that with, the clock dandelions, and they just fly out, and they just land everywhere, and they're the babies. They're sharing its, the dandelion is sharing its wisdom with the world and its generosity of its life with the world. And that is what you eat when you eat a dandelion. Okay, so to eat wild food, then you're absorbing that into you, so healthy, good food. And then if you compare that to if you go and eat a McDonald's, okay, where's the life force, where's the energy in that? And the ingredients might have been sourced from all over the world. When you eat local food and plant food, then you're eating, especially if it's from your area, from your backyard, from your garden allotment, then you're eating the local conditions, you're eating the local rainfall, the local water. So you deeply connect in with who you are and where you are and what you're made from. So I don't know if I've really answered the question. Do plants want us to be well? They do, because when we are well and when we're healthy, because when we're ill, okay, so when we've got a cold or a flu, for example, or any of the other great range of illnesses there are, then our body is concentrating on trying to rebalance us. And when we are well, then we're well balanced and we're free to explore the rest of the world, the rest of our connections with the wild world. So by eating a healthy diet, you're going to be healthier and you're going to build your connections with those around you. And when you do that, it's a better world for a plant to live in, because you won't let your neighbour, if your neighbour gets out the Roundup or whatever it's called, the Monsanto spray, your neighbour gets that out, you're just going to be out there saying, oh, hold on, that's not a weed, that's my friend, can't kill it. So that's why they need us to, the plants want us to be healthy and well, because then we'll recognise them as our relations. And when we don't, we're shut off. Everything's plastic wrapped, it's bad for the planet, it's all going in landfill or being burnt or polluting, and that's not a good environment for any plant, any life form to live in. So yeah, that's why I think they want us to be well, for sure.
Thank you. So when we ask a plant a question or ask for medicine, how do we make sure that we listen with an open mind and not projecting our own stories? And how do we learn to discern between what plant really wants to communicate and what we are kind of constructing, or the story that's been running?
I think part of that will come with practice, being persistent and going back and asking again. But part of it is when you're communicating from your heart, you feel it in your heart. You feel what's being returned, what you're receiving. You feel it in your heart. And there is probably for a lot of people an element of projection, and especially early on. And actually, if you work with a plant that's a known medicinal that you know about, so I'll talk about lavender, you might know that lavender might help you get off to sleep, is quite relaxing, is quite good for maybe depression, or for, you can even put it on burns. What your level of knowledge about that plant, that's coming from your head, unless it came from direct experience. It's coming from your head, it's head knowledge. It's probably not first-hand knowledge unless you've then used it and you go, oh yeah, that does work, okay, so cool, that's true. But so I recommend going and working with plants you don't even know who they are, you don't know their names, you don't know anything about them, because then how can you project onto them? You don't know who they are. And maybe you're still kind of putting out there, maybe you're having a really shitty day and you sit with that plant and you start to feel better and you think, oh, maybe this plant's good for, for bad moods or for mild depression. Maybe it is. That's the thing. Maybe it is. And maybe that's why you started to feel better. So yeah, that's kind of my answer to that. I hope it's good enough.
Thank you. Wonderful. So I'm curious how you see, with all the years of your experience and working with different people and plant communities, what do you feel the long-term effects and implications in a kind of good way for allowing ourselves to learn, to listen, hear, dream, work, collaborate, and co-create with the plants? What are the effects for us and for the planet Earth and for wider nature?
Well, in a sense, that is returning to a kind of indigenous way of being. I'm just reading the message at the same time as speaking, so I shouldn't do that. There is a lot of knowledge that comes through the body. There is. Yeah, so all by doing this, by opening ourselves up to awareness that plants are our relations and directly communicating with them, we are returning to a better way of being on planet Earth. And I think the more people that, even if it's just a little slight opening of a door, it just starts to change your perspective. And it does go from being, you know, oh, I know what that plant is good for, or oh yeah, we could harvest that and we could make loads of cordage and we could, you know, build us, sew ourselves a sail for our ship, or build ourselves a canoe, or, you know, all of those things that we've also got, that we know about those plants, that they're good for something, or, you know, this plant is good for diarrhea, or this plant is good for I don't know, bad tooth or something, you know, that kind of goes away because we're replacing that with their personalities. And so I know that my friend Emma is a great yoga teacher, but she's not just a yoga teacher. She is so much more than a yoga teacher. So if I have, you know, if I need a good yoga session, I will go to Emma and I will go and I'll say, please, I want a one-to-one yoga now, let's sort it. And she'll do that for me and my body will feel better. So you've still got that relationship with plants. You still know that you can take this plant for a bad stomach. But you also know that just like Emma, there's the rest of the personality there. So you'd never just go and take the leaf and take it and that's it, that's the end of the relationship. You're like, they're part of your family. And so if people begin to live their life with this way of being, then it is a collaboration. It is a just a deeper relationship with all life on Earth, and that becomes more respectful. It becomes more reciprocal. We stop treating everything as ours to pillage and use and burn and destroy. We start going, hold on a minute, this being has as much right to be here as I do, and that will change everything.
Thank you. I think you answered 2 questions that I had, which is great because yeah, I think that shift that you're talking about in perception, but also it's connected with like a more reciprocity in our relationship with plants, as opposed to just treating them as objects and something we can use for different for different things. And of course, we all grow up more or less, all of us grow up in the culture where we can just take it off the shelf. So it's very, very hard to switch to, you know, you go in the garden, it's like, oh, okay, well, who is talking to me today? Who wants to talk, or who do I want to approach and why? And so you start questioning these things, which I think is incredibly yeah, I think it's powerful. It can lead to powerful shift on so many levels. Well, it works for me. The more I do it, and I'm still doing supplements, but I really would love to shift much more towards this way, much more intimate way and much more delicate way of being. I want to ask you something that interests me personally a lot, and maybe some of you here as well. For me personally, I'll just quickly share, plants connect with me just by themselves in my dream world. So they come to me in my dreams and they know that I'm incredibly open in my dream world. I have zero like filters. They know that they can speak to me in specific ways and that I will grab it. I will really perceive it, because in my working life, I can be quite analytical and there's a lot going on in my mind, and I really need to make time to drop into that space. So they come to me in dreams and they tell me what to do, and then they continue in the waking life working with me. So Rachel, I want to ask you this question about the dream work and dream world with plants, sharing that space, and how can we deepen this practice if we're already on the way and we already had some experiences or would like to start it, and make it more like intentional and conscious, and go open kind of more space for that?
So yeah, I mean, I love what you just shared, and I love that the trees have come to you in dreams and given you messages, and that happens to me too. And so first of all, I'd say have a pen and paper at the ready by the side of your bed, because sometimes you kind of have this amazing thing with a plant in your dream, and then you wake up and you're just like, if you don't write it down straight away, you'll lose it. So that's number one. But number two, if you want to invite a specific plant into your dream and to work with it in dreaming, then it's the intention. It's basically going to bed at night and inviting the plant to join you, and having a question, having a point to it, having a reason why you're inviting the plant. So whether it's to get to know them better, or to ask if they have any wisdom to share with you, or whatever reason you might have to want to work more deeply with that plant. And to dream with a plant, I mean, the methods I use, I'd try for like a week, 7 days in a row. I'd have the pen and paper by the bedside, and then before I go to bed, I mean, it depends what plant it is. If it's a plant you might have an oil of, or a salve or a balm made from, maybe you could rub it on your palms and your soles as you go to bed, or your chakra points, and just lay in bed and invite the plant to come, and then just allow yourself to drift off to sleep with that very present. Or you might just want to take a tincture before you go to bed and invite it in that way. Cup of tea maybe, or a sprig of the plant on your pillow. I did a workshop once, and one of the guys there, he actually made up a flask of tea, and he set his alarm for 4 a.m. and because he reckons after 4 a.m. is when you dream the most. I don't really know enough about dream cycles, but I trust him, yeah, because he got his results. So he woke up at 4, drank his cup of tea, went straight back to sleep, but as he was drinking the tea, invited the plant to come and join him in dreams. And so that's another way. But I mean, you can just fill your life with that plant in your day to day. So you could do what I call, well, what other cultures as well called a diet, a plant diet, or a dieta, and just introduce that plant every day for a period of time. So I like to microdose, which basically is, you know, normally if you took a tincture, you'd be taking 2 or 3 big squirts a day. I just take a couple of drops, perhaps in the morning, normally in the morning, and I'll just ask that plant to be with me and to teach me. And I'll do that every day for a month or 6 weeks, or until I forget, or until it feels complete. But that way they can come in dreams as well. It's not specific dream work, but it's another way that you can introduce or to invite them into your life, and invite them to teach you, that may also come into your dream as well. So yeah.
Thank you. And with this, I would love to share the book. So here is Rachel's bookshop. You can see the book is there, and you can order it. And I really recommend, because things that Rachel is mentioning right now, there's a lot of practical things. So it's very, very practical book, and it really already works for me, certain approaches I started trying. We would really love to give you a chance to meet each other a little bit deeper, and to also share your own experiences. This chat is absolutely fantastic. It's very rich. And please don't leave just yet, because we would like to open for your questions after this little breakout room. I think we will take about 10 minutes, and I'm gonna try to make a room of 3 people each, so you have good time to share, like 3 minutes each. And our invitation to you would be to really share your real experience, some practical experience, so that everybody can learn a little bit and everybody can reflect a little bit. But also, if you had really something you would like to share just from today's meditation that Rachel offered to us so generously, please share that, because this is something that is also very fresh, especially if you really heard the plant speaking to you and really learned something. So I'm going to send you to the breakout rooms. We are 22 people at the moment. Okay, it's gonna be 7. All right, so I create the rooms and then I will bring you back in. And right now it's 19:09 on my clock, so I give you 10 minutes. Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed meeting each other, and I see more videos on. That's a good sign. So I think in the last 10 minutes, we're going to open the floor for your questions. So maybe raise your hand if you want to ask a question, and then I will let Rachel answer them, and I will just manage this process somehow. So, oh, Sarah raised a hand. So Sarah, just maybe unmute yourself and go forward. You can ask a question.
Here I am. So I understand if you actually don't want to answer this question now, because it might be a teeny bit off topic, but I'm wondering, Rachel, whether you have a kind of a headline for us about the similarities and differences in communicating with the fungal queendom as opposed to the plant world.
Great. Yeah, I just unmuted myself. Great. Oh, wow. I mean, mushrooms, fungus, mycelium. Wow. What yeah. What a community. I mean, they are the planet, aren't they? They are. If it wasn't for fungus, we wouldn't be here. And one of my primary allies actually is a mushroom. And I actually I've made a sacred contract with that mushroom, and I serve the mushrooms, but I serve basically the health of planet Earth through my promise to the mushrooms. But to connect with them, you can do it the same way. I mean, for me, the methodology has been the same. I mean, to be fair, the mushroom that I'm talking about is a psychedelic psilocybin mushroom. And so if you have access to such a mushroom and want to investigate that way, as long as you do it in a safe and, environment, then yeah, I mean, they will tell you an awful lot without you having to put that much effort in, because they're quite loud and clear. But yeah, Sarah, what a great community to bring up. They are so important to every aspect of life, the mycelial networks and everything. So yeah, but you can just, as long as you have the intention, you have your open heart. Of course, tasting is a little bit more tricky unless you know what you're dealing with, but to sit with a mushroom or to invite one into a meditation is a great way to get going with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. Such a great question. I'm really grateful you asked that, because it's something that I also asked Rachel one day, and yeah, it's fantastic question. So we have Daniela, eco-artist. Daniela, do you want to ask your question? Just unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, blessings everyone. My name is Daniela.
I can't hear you very well. I don't know about others. Maybe just push it a bit up, the volume.
Okay, I'm gonna check my settings. Thank you. Oh, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Daniela, and I'm coming from the unceded territory of the Lheidli Nation in northern British Columbia, Canada. I've been studying interbeing communication and ethics with water and trees for the past 12 years. And as we're moving into a place in my work, and I see it in others, where we're bringing water and trees' voices directly to the table, the meeting table, the forum, the kitchen table, what the question that comes to mind is, and I've heard this voiced in the community, is about how do we trust what we receive? And it was brought up earlier from you, Evgenia, about the when can we tell if there's projection and when can we tell if there's direct communication? I know for myself, it's very clear, mostly because I usually burst out laughing because what they say surprises me so much in my consciousness. I never thought of it, and it shifts me right in that moment. And those words are literally imprinted. And in 12 years, it's really only happened like 5 times. The rest of the time, it's me hearing. I hear this from the plant. So I personally am learning to distinguish my language where I own the filter. I just own my human filter. And for me, I think that's a big part of it, is you just own it. You know, that I'm receiving this through my own understanding or my own wound or something. But the question that I have for you, Rachel, is, you know, and this, again, the other piece is the rights of nature, right? Where rivers are being given sovereignty in law, and then they have guardians. They have human guardians. In some case, it's an indigenous person. In another one, it's an expert in that particular water, for example. So the question's coming up like, who are we going to believe, right? How could you, so my question is really about, have you thought about this? It's like, how could we, I mean, I could imagine corporations, right? Literally going, well, my nature communicator says this, the forest says it's okay to come and chop us down. Another person goes, no, you can't chop down, you know? And so, I mean, have you imagined in consciousness or seen in any of your plant communications what the world might look like when we're bringing their voices to the table?
Well, I haven't ever imagined that there would be some lumberjack there standing up for the forest saying, oh, well, no, good to go. So yeah, I kind of, my vision, but I think it's my projected vision rather than what I've seen, is that it's all going to be beautiful when we start speaking out. But I believe that the more people that are party to this, the more people who are human people who are sat around the table with us and with our plant and water and other non-human relations, the more we'll be able to spot an interloper and say, well, hold on a minute, are you sure the woods said that? And let's go to them in council and ask. But yeah, it's an interesting question, because yeah, when it has been brought into law, I mean, I know there was a river a couple of years ago in New Zealand, wasn't there, that was the rights of that river were brought into law, and it is the indigenous people there that are going to stand for the rights of that river. And so I think there's some trust involved, isn't there, you know, at this stage. But I think the more people that have the deep connection that you have, Danalia, that we'll be able to call out if there is anyone, if suddenly Bill Gates decides he's going to be talking for the rights of anything in nature, we'll all be like, I'm not sure about that, my friend. So yeah, I can't have a better answer than that really at this stage, but I live in hope and trust that we'll be able to, you know, stand up together with our true hearts for our non-human relations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Daniela Cato also has a question.
Yes, just very briefly about interlopers and trust. Of course, you know, a consumptive kind of utilitarian relationship with plants has been the constant throughout human history. Like, we know the most perverse form, colonialism, and we know what it's done to indigenous communities. But even nowadays, you know, thinking, for example, ayahuasca retreats, how people have this kind of touristy relationship with those, go to a place and like in 2 or 3 days feel under pressure to have this experience. And it's really does not honor this time span that Rachel mentioned is really necessary, is really the respect, the time. So this is ayahuasca retreat is an example. But for example, even areas where I'm now training as a Shinrin-yoku therapist in Japan. And I've often very disturbed how medicalized this whole field has become. It's all based on the chemical profile of the forests and scientific evidence. There's this pressure to legitimize everything scientifically. And very often I feel disturbed. So am I being an accomplice of this? How do we avoid being accomplices of this? Without being aggressive or negative, but it's very disturbing. So I wonder if Rachel has any comments about this.
That's really interesting point that you raised, Daniela. Yes. Well, I think it's good to be on the inside. So you're there amongst all this scientific, I mean, this is just my thoughts, but amongst all this scientific jargon going on, you're going to get your qualification and then you're going to go out and share Shinrin-yoku with the world. But you can share it your way. You've got the qualification, you know what to do, how to share it, how to do it well. But the people who are there having the experience, taking their shoes off in the forest and feeling the forest floor on their feet for the first time and feeling that their blood pressure is going down. They don't even need to know their blood pressure is going down because they're having that physical experience of it. So this is the problem when things get actually popularized and when things come into, if you like, a bit more mainstream, then we have to somehow quantify them and make them, you know, testable, measurable, something that is in a box that people can understand. And maybe that's just because of the way that our brains have been trained, that if it's not scientific, then we can't trust it because it's woo-woo. You know, it's like maybe it's a reflection of that. But yeah, I guess the only way to kind of have an effect on that is just to be from the inside and to know that science and to know that knowledge, but then to just go, well, there is this, but actually let's just experience it because that's where the real truth lies and the real magic and the real healing and the real opportunity for connection is. So yeah.
Thank you, Daniela, for a great question. I want to ask maybe if someone has very, very last burning question. So does anybody, so it's alarming the commodification there is with this relationship with our plant kingdom. Dollars exchange for relationship that is to be and is a natural one. Exactly. Yes, anybody else would like to ask Rachel a question? Right, she's still here. Yes, Sergey, please.
So I also brought that question up actually in our focus group. And the question would be this: is there a different frequency of communication between trees and you or the plants that are really fast growing? Is there a different expectation of the length of response between, let's say, when you're communicating with a tree versus with a quick growing plant?
Yes and no. I mean, if you compare it, it's relative. If you compare a plant and tree, put them into the same category to a stone, to a piece of granite, there you really see it, because the granite to talk to a stone is quite slow. Crystals are different, again, they're higher, they're quicker, but like a big old stone is much sort of like, it takes more to get in there. And I think the same actually is true with a really big ancient tree. It's been around for a long time, and really we're just probably like a fruit fly zipping around, you know. So you have to slow yourself. But actually an annual plant that, you know, I mean, actually, when we did the meditation, it was Bluebell that came to me, and Bluebell is not an annual, but it's got a very short life cycle within the year. You know, it comes up in spring, and by June, all the leaves have rotted away and it's gone, you know. So when you've got a quick living plant, a short living plant, something that is an annual, for example, it might be slightly different. It's not hugely different from a tree. It's not hugely different. It's a little bit slower, a tree, but from my experience anyway, that's the case. But when you move into different life forms, then you experience quite a different kind of frequency, a different way. Yeah.
Thank you. I also wanted to add maybe to this from my own experience that to me, that does not matter, a fast-growing plant or a tree. What I find a really big difference, and I don't know, some of you perhaps had experiences of connecting with whole forest ecosystems. That's what I'm really interested in. And that is like another level for me. That is something to learn. And because if you look at a forest ecosystem, it's incredibly complex, right? It's like, well, where do you start? But I tried once and I wanted to connect with the land that is about to become in the process of healing and becoming a forest sanctuary here in Portugal. So I spent 2 days with this land and I just walked and I genuinely asked her, well, please show me what you would like to be, show me your dream and just guide me through, let me follow you, let me follow your own story that is evolving, not the past story. The past story is all in the landscape, it's quite obvious. And so I just trusted that moment. And she did bring me to actually specific trees where I needed to receive specific message and to see with very specific like feelings and eyes. And it was like a whole being perceiving that message of a mother tree that had some kind of problem. Basically, she was like sick, she was going on she's on the way out, but around that the whole healing is happening and the whole forest is growing because the land is in the process of healing and recovery. So she showed me in a super simple way that actually it's possible to connect with the forest ecosystem. And for example, maybe perhaps ask, well, what are the parts of you that need attention and need maybe our help from us humans, because certain experiences and certain parts of the land where we want to work, they do need our support and help, and they do need kind of intervention, if you want, in that sense, from humans, because the where they have arrived to with our pressures, with our activities, sometimes they cannot. Of course, if we leave them there for 1,000 years, the land will recover, nature will recover, the forest will recover. But if we're already committed to a certain space or certain land, like a community is being built or a project, of course, we can collaborate, we can co-create, and that's the whole point. So I believe we can learn to hear, and it's incredibly powerful because I think you can ask very specific things, including where and how you build infrastructure and which parts really need to be preserved and where you can go and kind of implement certain parts of human habitation and which parts you really cannot touch because there are bird nests or there's the wild boar creating paths. And so, and when you have a piece of land where there will be a community with buildings, of course, parts of this land will be sacrificed for people being on the land and being the guardian of the land, hopefully in the long term. So the land is kind of ready to go there, but they need to be very careful, kind of appreciation and the process of her becoming from one state to another. And I believe that we as humans can facilitate the process of healing of ourselves as we are help land to heal. Even if there will be our buildings on it, we can still co-create that beautiful natural flow and biodiversity on that land. So that's just sharing my own experience of kind of I don't know, partially maybe answering the question, but also kind of going further. I think we are already going quite over time. I managed to share the book Secret Teaching Plant Intelligence Perception. But Rachel, maybe you could share the other book that you mentioned, because I don't actually remember the name of it. So if you can find it while we're still here. Otherwise.
I can't, hold on a minute, let's see. Oh yeah, let me just quickly look it up.
It would be also really great if you can use some of the practices Rachel shared, and if you want to share your experience later, either by email or on the Tonal Forest Facebook group. I'm sure many of you already know about it, and if you are not yet part of this group, then you can connect. I shared earlier a whole bunch of links for different channels. I will just share here. So you can enter a Facebook group, and we did that after one of the deep listening exercises, and it was really beautiful when some of you sent me those short paragraphs with an image of your drawings, and we shared in the community, and it was, I think it was really inspiring for some people. So if you feel like sharing something from your today's practice, maybe with an illustration of that plant that called to you, maybe it's a plant from your garden or from your forest, or it might happen in the next few days, just go forward, share it freely in the group, or send it to me if you want, and I will do that. Thank you so much. So we have 2 books, so you have all the books that we mentioned today. And if you also want to share some more reading that you know of, some great articles or books on the subject, please do. So then we can keep sharing and keep inspiring each other to practice more and to go deeper. So with this, I would like to perhaps say huge thank you to Rachel and to all of you who are part of the journey. And I'm looking forward to our next event. I will just make super quick announcement that next event will be on the 8th of September, this next month, and it is with Foresta Collective. They are going to offer some amazing practices, and you can already book it today, and there is a website available for them, so you can check out all their practices. And I'm inspiring you also to check out Rachel's website, which we can share again if you, I think our chat is becoming super long, but let's do it. Okay, I found it. And please have a look, because there are different retreats, especially I guess for those who are in UK, right? But also there probably will be more things when we are more open. I would love to have practice with Rachel, bringing her to Portugal one day.
I'd love that too.
That would be amazing. I think there will be lots of people who are interested. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you all, everyone. Thank you for your amazing, interesting questions and stories. And thank you so much, Evgenia, for inviting me and hosting the event, and for all your work you do with the Eternal Forest. It's amazing work.
Thank you. Thank you. And looking forward to speaking to some of you personally and staying connected and seeing some of you in physical shape and form very soon.